Hey guys, how's it going? So today we're going to be talking about Griftlands, the new single-player card game by Klei. So, real quick to get out of the way what sponsored means, it does not mean they're paying me to say specific things, it just means that, I'm being paid to put the video up. Griftlands is a game that I actually really enjoy, and, while I have a few very minor criticisms about it, because I do tend to try to be very fair and very balanced in my, reviews when I do stuff like this, there's actually, really few and far between. It's actually just, a really fun game. I had a ton of fun playing it for the past couple of days. If you want to try it for yourself, I'm putting a link in the pinned comment, and yeah, we're gonna be watching me play through it on stream. I'm gonna be throwing it over to the stream swim, who's gonna be able to kind of break it down and talk about explain the game while playing it through. Okay, over to you, swim stream. Let's bring you guys up to speed. So we made a Rook run yesterday. Rook's the character I'm playing. I'm going to be explaining kind of the game as I go, especially if you weren't here yesterday. So yeah, Griftlands is it's a single player card battler. It's like a sort of effectively post-apocalyptic sort of situation here, or at least that kind of vibe. You kind of run around, you have sort of consequences matter sort of RPG building, where it's certain NPCs will like you or dislike you based on what you do. You can kill some people, but then you receive consequences for doing that potentially. And of course you're just kind of going through your several days of a run, trying to keep your resources high and stay alive. Pretty straightforward. So the gimmick here, well, I say gimmick, I don't use that in any sort of pejorative way, but the idea here is you have kind of two types of battles. There's negotiations and then there's battles. So we're going to be using our negotiation deck mostly. Compromise or submission? Let's do the compromise. So the negotiation battles are pretty interesting. Basically, you're just kind of trying to keep the resolve of your core argument up while destroying the resolve of the opponent's core argument. We have 3 actions per turn. We're drawing the 5-card hand. In this case, we have the extra card. Why do we have an extra card? I thought it was 5. Huh, okay. So in this case, he's threatening 4 here, so we're just going to go ahead and block with our boosted rationale. And we're using the kind of special ability of Rook to try to gain benefits, whether your coin's on heads or tails. We'll do this. Yeah, and I guess we'll spin here. That makes sense. So you're basically just flipping your coin a bunch of times and getting benefits each time. So if we want to, we can play the Visionary Bluff. I think in theory, even though we can't play any of the cards, it probably does make sense to do. Yeah, this is fine. So we play cards, we redraw through our deck, we make sure we watch what the enemy's doing, and then we're just going to be trying to wear them down while protecting our life total. The most important thing is life total carries over between fights, so you're going to want to make sure your life total stays as high as possible and that you don't take unnecessary damage. So in this case, our coin is on heads, so we get the benefit of any of these cards that say heads on them. This is Rook's special mechanic. Yeah, let's do this. This is sort of interesting. So we can use Conductor on the left side. We can use Visionary Pleasantries to draw a card and stick you. Let's see what the side argument is. Diplomacy cards deal or -1 damage. Okay, so we do want to kill this side argument. Okay, so let's go ahead and start attacking this side argument over here. This is kind of it has its own health pool, but it's providing a buff to him that we actually want to get rid of. Then we're going to go ahead and use the Tall Jabber as well. This is going to try to hit it. It's going to gain 2 influence as well, which will... This is a side argument that we're basically bringing up that could buff some of our cards in the future. Then we're going to use our Mirrored Cullet to gamble twice. This is going to flip the coin twice, and then the last flip is going to dictate which coin we're on, which will allow us to potentially get a benefit to one or the other. Now we rolled heads, which means now we can use Tall Head Turner. And one of the tricks of this deck is we have this keyword called Prepared, which only works if the card is on the left side in our hand. So that's why we played all these left cards first. We wanted to get to being able to use this with Prepared, and that gives us an extra action when we use it, which allows us to play our last card, Trickery. So now, because we're taking a little bit of damage, let's go ahead and apply Composure. So we're going to go ahead and use Aloof here, because we have 2 shields and he's threatening 4. So we're going to go ahead and bump that up to 5 so we don't take damage after all that. And we're good. So yeah, that's basically like kind of like the playstyle in a nutshell. Sometimes you have to like, depending on what kind of deck you build, you're gonna have some turns that are, you know, gonna be pretty cool combos that you can execute in specific orders. And your deck is gonna be changing as you play, which is really cool. Set the coin, apply to composure, rig. There is actually a chance we could lethal him here with decisive call it. Oh wait, do we actually have guaranteed lethal? Wait a second. If we use blacklist on this, that deals 11 damage. If you set the coin to snails, it should deal 1 point of damage, and then you use headstrong rationale, and then dogged becomes the left side of your hands. Oh, god damn it. He got armor from something. Oh. Okay, I messed one thing up. There was one of his abilities, gain 3 composure whenever rook creates a new argument. Because I didn't read that. We actually don't have lethal here, unfortunately. Man, that's pretty rough. This looks interesting. Probably a game you have to play yourself to feel it. Yeah. Okay, now we can just kill him here. It doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so the idea behind this game, one of the things that makes it interesting, and you know, this is true of other games in the same genre, is that when you kind of like go through your run, you are altering your deck as you go, right? So you're taking cards out, you're putting cards in. So for example, one of our cards just kind of leveled up here. It leveled up because we played it enough times, and this is kind of like the experience system. So what that means is we have the forking paths here. This is one of the things I think this game does better than Slay the Spire, which is the level system. You have many different ways, like your cards will level up and gain different abilities, and there's like branching paths of like ways different cards can level up for different kinds of effects, as opposed to just being kind of like a linear thing. So we've got, for example, our Grumble can turn into Speculative Grumble, where it gambles first, or it could be Assertive Grumble, where it gains 1 dominance. I actually like don't really even want this card in my deck, because I'm mostly focusing on like the green cards, the diplomacy cards. So we can go ahead and just play out the let's take the Speculative Grumble. So the gamble just flips the coin, and that could actually be useful sometimes. And then because we want to fight, we get to pick a card to add to our deck, or we could decline it. And as we add cards to our deck, you know, our playstyle can drastically change throughout the run. I think the fun of games like this is to basically just like try to find like some really, really crazy combos, and then when you hit a run where you're able to put the combo together, then like you have a lot of fights that you're just able to like pop off in insane ways. So out of these 3 options, we can add any of these to our deck. This is Praise, 1 to 4 damage, and if it's prepared, we gain 1 influence. Our deck doesn't really use influence right now. Helmet, when this is in your hand, apply 2 composure to a random argument whenever you prepare a card. Unplayable. So yeah, it's an interesting idea. Preparing is not something we're doing. We actually don't want any of these cards in our deck. We're gonna go ahead and decline this. So, oh, interesting. So we still have the ability to battle this. We can talk about battles as well. It's sort of a bad example because in this run we actually happen to be trying to almost not battle at all, which is a little awkward. Then convince. Interesting. So we can try to convince him of like which different things. Is this like a story game with varying outcomes based on your decisions? Yes. Yeah, exactly. We actually might need backup in the fight because our battle deck is pretty weak. Like, I've literally only done 1 battle fight once in this run. I'm focusing on my negotiation deck. So we start off this fight. Everyone has a different special ability with their core argument. This one's at the start of Imiko's turn, steal 1 card from Rook and hold it hostage. So when the deck runs out of cards, you reshuffle and redraw, like any sort of deck builder game. So what that means is it's not necessarily making my deck weaker. Sometimes it takes a weak card and that ends up making my deck stronger. So I don't really mind that. So let's go ahead and decide exactly how we want to play this out. We do have Dogged, which does allow me to, you know, play it for real cheap if I can get it prepared, which I would be able to. We have the Gambles, gain 1 bonus damage if it does have the snails. So we want to set the coin. So we can start with Conductor. That's just going to basically, we're literally just playing it to get it out of our hand. Then we're going to go ahead and spin. And we'll see, like, if we, what we actually get out of this. So spin just deals a random amount of damage and then flips the coin a bunch. That allows our Rooted Grumble to work, because now we're on tails. And now I'll use Call It to switch back to heads, which is what our deck mostly wants to play at. Now Dog It is on the left side of our hand, so that allows us to play it for 0, so we can play it out here. And now we can lastly play Visionary Pleasantries, which now that we're heads, because we set it back to heads after taking the gamble, will allow us to get a little bit of extra damage. Okay. So this is a fairly complex deck. Not like, you don't really have to like build decks that do convoluted things like this. Although I find it fun. Apply 4 Composure. Okay, that's fine. Gamble twice. Okay, seems fine. So we're still on heads, which is, you know, nice. That allows us to get like the maximum value out of these. So what that's going to mean is let's just go ahead and try to do this. And apply some Composure. So we can deal some damage as well. Let's Trickery and see what we're getting. I actually just want to fish for my card here. So I'm going to do something a little weird, something that kind of like wouldn't normally make sense, and I'm going to let him live for several turns. The reason I'm doing this is because of one of the cards in my deck, the card called Blacklist, which is a very unique mechanic, and it's something that I basically want to be redrawing here. So because we're on heads, Visionary Bluff will cost 0, so I can just literally play a Pot of Greed here. Then we can use Pleasantries as well for 1 minute to draw a card. And then we mostly just want to be chilling here. Did he actually... Oh, he didn't steal my Blacklist. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And we just want to be making sure that we're not taking any actual damage here. Okay, we can pass here. So, I'll show you exactly like what I'm doing. It's kind of weird because we do have Lethal him. We could be killing him. What we're going to do instead is we're going to keep him alive for a few turns until we can get our Blacklist on here. And what that's going to do is it gains permanent value every single time I play it. Like, not just for the fight, but for the entire run, it gets stronger. Huh, we haven't drawn it yet. If we get the draw 2 here, we're good. Nope. Wow. We're actually gonna have to wait a little bit. It's gotta be one of these last 2 cards in my deck, unless I'm missing something. So, the only thing that matters is just making sure we're not losing out on any permanent damage here. So, by just like flipping our coin a few times, we should have taken the Composure card. Oops. We are actually taking some damage here. Depends what we flip on the coin, actually. Got 2 armor. Well, this sets the coin, so we can also get 2 armor there as well, right? It's gotta be worth it in this case. Okay, so we're taking 1 point of damage. I'm just gonna keep passing. I have to be okay taking this 1 point of damage. Because my Blacklist, I think unless... Yeah, he didn't steal it. It has to be one of these last 2 cards. Yeah, there it is. Oh, god... Alright. To be perfectly honest, I don't know exactly what killed him there. One of the effects just like passively ended up killing him. So Blacklist, every single time I use it, I can only use it once per fight, but every time I use it, it gains 1 damage permanently. And you saw it in the last fight, it was what dealt 11 damage because I've used it 11 times. And it's something that, it's a very interesting concept. There's cards like that that just kind of like can start scaling permanently. And I find cards like this in these kinds of games very fun, even though oftentimes they're not necessarily the most competitive. Sometimes they can be. Okay. So, we've got, out of his option, let's go ahead and, yeah, let's see. Hit all enemy arguments, lose all dominance, helmet, which we declined before. Head Turner, I actually really like Head Turner. I think this is a sweet card. Let's go ahead and nab it up. And we've got one of our upgrades. That's going to be Trickery, so we can either improvise plus 1 out of 5 card. Ooh. Or upgraded. So, this is like the skill tree system. Our Trickery leveled up. Now we can choose whether we want to evolve it into Wide Trickery, improvise. You know, we get to see 5 cards instead of 3. This is just kind of like a random draft sort of thing. It's not random cards. There's a pool of improvised cards that it can pull from. There seems to be around like 8 from what I've seen. And then there's this one. So we could see more, or we could see upgraded ones. I think I'll choose the upgraded ones. Feels like it is likely better. Okay. So I can do another threat and fight. Stop skimming the food here. And I'll eventually show you guys how the normal battles work too. I'll eventually show you guys how the normal battles work too. It's just, again, this run is kind of based on the idea of negotiation. That's what we've built around. I don't know how proper that is. It's probably gonna be a good idea in most situations to try to be flexible. But I think it's fun to try to like lean into one or the other and see how it works out. Okay, so we really need the coins to be heads so we can use like Visionary Bluff. And we want to be able to like spam everything so we can use Dogged. Unfortunately, Intimidate is here, which is a card that we can't play, and it happens to be on the left side of Dogged. So there's no way, unless we discard a card, which we can't do in this hand, there's no way to be able to get Dogged at the 0 mana that we want here. I guess we can start by just playing Rooted Grumble. Since we started randomly on Snails in this case, we can play one of our Snails cards, which typically the red cards want you to be on Snails and the green cards want you to be on Heads. Okay, so we do want to tank up. Again, bit of an awkward thing here, just because we don't actually have any of the Composure cards, the purple ones that give you armor in this case. I guess I'll just try to bluff and hope I hit one of the Composures. This is actually the good one here. I don't know, wait, no, never mind, this is the bad one. Oh, rigged is an argument. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I didn't actually know that. Well, I can save life by using my Conductor to force his argument to target my side argument. Now, when a side argument dies, it does take trample damage, so my main argument will still take 1 damage here, but because I have 2 armor, my main argument will stand, and my resolve won't go down. I liked battles better in this game. Yeah, battles are pretty, like, they're fairly similar to like, what, if you have played, like, Slay the Spire. They're not the same, but it's like a lot of the similar concepts. So Speculative Grumble is pretty powerful here. This is actually a crazy amount of damage. I might end up liking battles better long term, but I've been really enjoying negotiation just because I find them interesting and very unique. We'll see though. So Head Turner's Prepared Gain 1 action is super powerful, so I really want to get that to the left side of my hand. This one will flip the coin. But Gain 1 action is kind of useless in this hand because we actually have no draws. Never mind. Huh. Okay, so I guess there's kind of nothing to do here. This appropriated something that I don't really want, so I'm just going to go face in this case. We'll just apply some Composure here so that I don't tank any. And then I'll just deal damage. We flipped back to Heads so I can deal max damage here. And then I'm just going to do nothing else. These cards have a property called Sticky, which means they don't get reshuffled or, put in the discard to eventually get reshuffled at the end of turns. You can carry them over in your hand between rounds if it says Sticky on it. So we're able to draw 5 new cards while still having some of the cards from before. Just to kind of like keep our options a bit more flexible. So we're still on Heads, so that means, you know, we want to try to be lethaling him down. He didn't steal anything like super big for us, but as always I want to blacklist. You can see my blacklist is getting really strong here. Check this out. It's dealing 12 damage. So I think we can just start with blacklisting. So now he's down to 5. We actually can almost kill him here. We do have Gamble twice and Set Coin. This is sort of interesting. So I think in terms of lethal, we need to deal 5 damage, right? Every time you gamble and you hit Snails, you deal 1 damage to a random... Oh, it's a random enemy argument. Okay, we just won't kill him this turn then. It's too risky. We're just going to take damage for no reason. We'll just tank up and chill. And kill him next turn. And it's always like the first step is kind of like checking to see if you have lethal there, potentially. Okay, yeah, and we're just ending this fight, I think. In one action. I mean, he does have 9, but I think... Like, how can he survive this? Okay, so this is give your current card. So we'll use Gamble twice first. So that flips the coin twice, giving bonuses when it lands. Then we'll set the coin to Heads. It's already on Heads, but we'll still get the Heads bonus for doing that. Then we'll give the currently prepared card plus damage, which is Tall Head Turner, and because it's prepared, it gets a bonus. Doesn't matter for this fight, because we just won it anyway, but... Okay. Oh, I haven't seen some of these before. I haven't seen any of these before. Snail Hunt. Rig 2 snails. Then improvise a hostility card from your draw pile. Or raw, when this card is drawn, gamble. So this is interesting. It's like, it's an unplayable card. It's kind of like a brick, but for 0 mana, you get to gamble, but you don't get to choose when you have it. I think that's a little weak, but it's also like a free discard target as well. Yeah, I don't think these are going to be like really big for me. Blank could be alright. So the interesting thing about something like this is because it gambles before it checks to see whether it's heads or snails, you have to rig the coin if you want to get the bonus damage. There's a property called rig where you can just like force the next coin flip to be a certain way. Oh, and we got some guy to love me. So different NPCs in the world either love you or hate you. They'll give you boons or I forget what it's called if they hate you. Banes. And there's like permanent bonuses. So now because this guy loves me, we have Voice of the People. I'll start all negotiations with this free argument, which is sweet because we're doing like a negotiation based run. That's really cool. But Imiko dislikes me. He doesn't hate me though, so I don't have his like bane. Dislike just means like maybe their prices will be a little higher, or something. Like means their prices will be a little lower. Whereas like the big things come from like when people love you or hate you. Where am I going here? Okay, so this guy gave us like our mission, and as you can see, I'm not typically one for dialogue. I usually just kind of like skip past all this stuff. Okay, so we have several different choices here. Looks like we're just like, I think this is kind of like part of the main quest here. Normally you have a bunch of different missions that you can choose from, and they're gonna have like different like difficulties and different rewards. But here it's kind of like forcing us onto a rail because I think this is like the main quest. Okay, difficulty 2 stars. That actually might be a little hard. I think we did just kind of like 1 star like all day yesterday. Okay, this is fine. And you'll see, if you saw that, the reward for completing this quest was remove a card from your deck, which might sound a little counterintuitive, maybe, but because you're just redrawing your deck and reshuffling it every time you run out of cards, if you removing a weak card from your deck is just as good, if not better, than adding a strong card to your deck. You're just giving your average draws more power. Okay, so yeah, we can go ahead and hit up these new locations. Okay, so yeah, so we have these like forking negotiation paths. This is an intimidation attempt. I'm less good at intimidation. I'm like kind of diplomatic negotiation. Intimidation I think is better for red, hostility. So red cards are hostility cards, green cards are diplomacy cards, and most of my deck is like good diplomacy cards, right? Purple cards are manipulation cards, which are mostly defensive. At least from what I've seen. So we have potentially a pretty strong hand here. Apply 5 composure, expend, replenish, destroy after 2 uses. So we got a temporary item here, like a battle item. So one of the interesting things about this game is like there's a lot of cards that you can just use a couple of times, and when it says destroy, that's permanent. It's gone forever. It's out of your deck, right? Now the awkward thing here is we actually kind of want to get it out. I don't know if it's going to be really good for us here because it's making it hard for the prepared stuff to happen, which is really awkward, honestly. I'll start with blacklisting. Yeah, see, like, we would be able to get one action if we're willing to, like, sacrifice this permanently. I don't think I am. I think it's better to keep it. It kind of has to be. So yeah, we want to be just kind of like protecting our arguments. This thing, this is the voice of the people that we always start with because we got that one boon from that last guy, which is cool. Yeah, I guess we'll just do nothing really fancy here. So, let our Sard arguments get tanked there. So, take some damage and dies, but that's fine. So we want to see if we can lethal in this turn. 11's going to be really hard to do. Maybe if we get a really lucky spin, we can start lethal. But because we're already on heads, we kind of want to play Visionary Pleasantries before we do that. Dogged is always like, it's so far on the right, it's going to be basically impossible to do. So let's play the heads cards while we have it, and then let's spin. It flips up to 4 coins, and every time it rolls snails, it can deal 1 damage to a random thing. So that could bump us into like a lethal range here. Either way, it's protecting us in this case. So we can just go ahead and play our promoted trickery. Doesn't matter. We're just gonna lethal him next turn. These fights are like pretty easy here. I mean, for the most part, I understand the game, and I think we're still playing on the easiest difficulty. There should be like difficulties. How does that actually work? How does this game handle like difficulty? Is there like, I think Slay the Spire had like a new game plus system basically. Does this game, are there like difficulty settings? Like how do you make it harder on yourself? Because I don't actually know that. I assume you unlock, after you like beat it the first time, you unlock some kind of difficulty thing. It's got prestige, which is like Ascension. Okay. Yeah, so we can just end the fight here. Now, this is the one thing that, at least as far as I currently understand, you know, to be fair, to talk about both sides, I really do like this game. The one thing that I think is like something that I probably don't like is how the experience system kind of incentivizes you to like farm fights. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, currently there are when you're fighting a battle, because cards get experience when you use them, there's a certain point in a battle where you're capped on experience, but until that point you're incentivized to like leave the battle running and just farm experience. And I think that's like a little awkward and can lead to like some like drawn out situations that aren't as fun. And I don't even know if maybe I'm misunderstanding there, but if I'm not, that's like literally the one thing about this game that I probably dislike. I have liked everything else about this game. It's a really good game. So we've got deal max damage, we can gain 1 influence, or we can prepare a card on top of that. Getting influence isn't really good for us, and prepare is going to be really sweet for our deck, because we often have something we really want to get onto the left side. That's going to be a really good level up. So a new card here. He's got another Jargon. Now Jargon's really interesting. We already have 1 Jargon. I don't think we want another one, but it's just like, it's an unplayable card that if I get it to the left side, it will sort of buff my actions to apply more armor per action. I don't think I want any of these. Let's just go ahead and decline. It's giving an item. So items are basically like these cards in your decks that are just like, you know, they have one-time uses. Ooh, this is a negotiation graft though. So grafts are basically like permanent upgrades for the run. You can have a set number of them based on how many slots you have. Whenever your damage spills over, apply 2 composure to a random argument. Huh. Well, sure. Okay, so we got the loot, but now we're getting attacked by something. Now we have no choice but to defend ourselves. And it's orange, so we're going into an actual battle. Now we haven't seen this yet, but this is like the other kind of fight, apart from negotiation, which is battle. In fact, you could say it's the main kind of fighting. This is probably like, if anything, they're both kind of equal, but... So, we have a similar thing going on, you know. We're action points, 3 action points, drawing cards. But the biggest difference is we have enemies, and we have to be protecting our guy instead. Now, enemies are going to have like buffs and debuffs, and the thing here is that when they go into white, they will panic, which basically means like surrendering or fleeing. It's like they're kind of out of the fight. Okay, so I'm not very prepared for this. This is actually really bad. These are pretty strong. There's 3 of them. My battle deck is really weak since I went all in on negotiations, and they're already threatening a lot at the start. This is gonna be rough. I think we kind of might need to like fully tank up. Wow. I think we might have no choice but to just do like a kick here, because like this is kind of like some of the highest average damage we can. Gain 4 defense at the end of their turn. So every time we hit them, they're gonna gain 4 defense. You're just like every turn they'll always have 4 defense no matter what. This one in front is the one that's surrendering soonest. Let's try to get it out of the fight fastest. So we're gonna skip our one of our block things. We're gonna tank some extra damage here. You can flee. Yeah, I might actually have to. I might have no choice. You cannot run away until turn 3. So yeah, we need to survive a few turns. So maybe we should just be playing fully defensively and setting up for fleeing. Maybe that would be better. I literally don't think we can win this fight. And this is, by the way, why, like, going for one kind of a fight is probably not a good idea. Yeah, this, like, 4 armor every turn just means we're never getting through. Cripple. So, cripple reduces the attack damage of something, which is pretty powerful. These ones are both dealing 5, so we should cripple this one. And that just, you see, this 5 dropped to a 3. He's just dealing less damage on that attack. We're just tanking up until we can flee. If you die, you die. Yes, it's a roguelite, so whenever you die, whether you run out of resolve for negotiation or health for battle, because they're both just like, they're kind of like 2 sides of the same coin. When you die, the run ends and you have to like restart anew. Okay, so we can run away. The enemy team will execute their turn, and if you survive, you will run away. That's interesting. Does that, can I not do that if I defense? Or can I still do this? Can I like defend and then run away? Your allies will dislike you for abandoning them. So I think allies, I think that doesn't apply here. I think allies are only people fighting with me. I currently am fighting by my lonesome. At least no one knows of your shame. Whoa. Yeah, that was pretty rough. Actually, we had 28 health, and they actually, like, even with running away, we almost killed them. There's no possible way we could have won that fight. We probably couldn't have even killed one of them. And yeah, that's basically it. That's Griftlands. It's a lot of fun. It's a single-player card game that, you know, is going to be a little bit different from, like, other multiplayer card games if you've kind of, like, you know, spent time bouncing around between multiplayer card games like I have. The single-player environment is actually a lot of fun. It allows you to kind of do a lot of, like, crazy, wacky combos that in a multiplayer environment would actually be really unfair, and it adds a lot of, like, flavor to a pre-existing genre of these, like, single-player kind of, like, roguelite card games. I think that it's definitely very much its own distinct game, right? Anyway, that's it for this video. As you know, I mentioned it before, I'm putting the link in the pinned comment if you want to check it out for yourself. Anyway, that's all I got. See ya.